Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my Author's Answer video for June 2023. The Author's Answer series was started by J.D. Archer and his writing group, wherein they asked themselves a variety of reading and writing related questions, which J.D. first posted on his blog. And then, as an author tuber, he made videos for several of those questions as well. So I'll link to all the Author's Answer information down below. I myself have been taking part in Author's Answer for the last few years, chronologically answering one question per month. And I also have a playlist I will leave linked down below. Anyway, this month I am up to question number 75, which is, if you could take any fairy tale and rewrite it as a full-length novel, what would it be? This is interesting to think about in conjunction with last month's question, which really was an April Fool's Day question, because that was the time of year when JD was posing it to the group originally. But instead of completely describing something new, in my case, I just decided to talk about my fantasy novel and comparing it to characters from Game of Thrones. Because Game of Thrones was kind of sort of an inspiration for the novel. But another thing that was an inspiration for this fantasy novel was fairy tales, particularly Little Red Riding Hood. It's kind of threaded into a lot of the story. Most of it is pretty oblique, although I do have a wolf character who I don't know if people would think automatically, oh, Little Red Riding Hood, but my inspiration for that character comes from the story, and it really does thread a lot into my ending, even, of the questions I'm asking about power and patriarchy with regards to my female main character, my kind of sort of red main character. But yeah, I really have been obsessed with that fairy tale in particular for a while. And in fact, over on BookTube, Jen Campbell turned me on to this book, which is Little Red Riding Hood Uncloaked, Sex, Morality, and the Evolution of a Fairy Tale by Catherine Orenstein, which is I think her thesis made into a book where she was a folklorist studying this tale and the things that I think really, the whole thing about sex and morality and how it applies to women was also what fascinated me about Little Red Riding Hood, and what I wanted to explore in my own novel about what I thought the fairy tale was saying and what I wanted to say. And also I did read this book, and it was very fascinating. If you're interested in other well, not only Red Riding Hood retellings, although there are some in here, but also a lot of the iterations of Red across continents even, although mostly there is a European focus. But anyway, I'll leave my review to this book linked down below. Another kind of sort of not really fairy tale that inspired me with this fantasy novel, I think the only way you could call this a fairy tale is if you're going off of a Disney template and what properties they decided to reproduce. But the other one for me is Peter Pan, which in a way it's the opposite of Little Red Riding Hood, because I feel like that's much more oblique in my story, whereas with Peter Pan I have this entire subplot that's pretty much overtly dedicated to Neverland and stepping out of time and being a child forever and what that means. It's relatively contained within my fantasy novel. I'm having my fantasy novel read over in chunks by a beta reading group, and they've gone through that section, and I think they might be surprised to hear about that Little Red Riding Hood inspiration, but they definitely wouldn't be surprised to hear me talk about Peter Pan again. And in fact, definitely one of the critiques of that particular subplot is I should probably dial back some of those references a little, and smooth them out so it's more about my story and less, an overt retelling. But yeah, Peter Pan is also a character who's sort of fascinated me for what it says about I think the fear of growing up and being part of a community and the dangers really of of being in a juvenile headspace forever. I know that's not the escapist Disney takeaway for Peter Pan, but that's what I think about. And in fact, there was a recent article on LitHub which asked the question, why are we so obsessed with Peter Pan, and looked at some of the various retellings of that story, and I think came to a lot of the same conclusions that I do. So I'll also link to that article down below. So yeah, isn't it fascinating, the sorts of things that inspire us as writers? I feel like I'm answering the second part of the question, which is how would you, if you were to retell a fairy tale, what would be your spin? And I guess my way is I wouldn't do it, you know, or at least in this story, this is not a direct retelling of either Little Red Riding Hood or Peter Pan. I'm just really trying to use those ideas and incorporate them into my own narrative template. So I don't know. I don't know if I could actually do like overt retelling. I feel like this is my way of doing it, and really stripping things away to the themes, I suppose, is my way. So yeah, if you have any fairy tales you would like to retell, I'd love to hear about them and how you'd like to go about that. It was certainly an easier question to answer as a fantasy writer as well, I suppose. It kind of is a subgenre of the genre. And that about covers it for me now. But anyway, I will be back on this channel pretty imminently, returning to BookTube content and my latest Am Reading video, which I hope to have up very soon, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Keep writing, and I'll see you next time.